Good morning, everyone. It's nice to, well, it's no longer morning, is it? Good afternoon to a new afternoon. Looks like we've got people coming in. We'll give them just another minute and then we'll get started. I want to say thank you up front to Tara Ramsey, our Outreach and Engagement Manager here in the Office of Outdoor Recreation, for helping with this webinar. We'll be in good hands with you on the job, Tara. I feel confident about that.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Okay, well, why don't we get started? It's nice to see you all today. My name is Nathan Rigner. I'm the director of our Office of Outdoor Recreation here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it's my pleasure to share with you today this webinar, Shredding the Numbers Behind Pennsylvania's Outdoor Recreation Industry. Tried to have a little fun, a little seasonal fun with this title, playing to our snow sports industry colleagues, particularly when we looked up the definition of shredding in the dictionary and saw that it had a second meaning beyond tearing into small bits that meant excelling and performing at a high level. And that is exactly what we want to be doing with our economic impact data for outdoor recreation here in Pennsylvania. So we'll begin with a note that today's webinar is being recorded. It's being recorded so that our colleagues who are unable to join us today can see it. And by continuing to participate in this webinar, you all are consenting to that recording. We'll also note that if you have questions, please place them in chat, and Tara and I will do our best to collaborate to respond to as many of those today as we are able to. So, brief introduction to who we are. We are Pennsylvania's Office of Outdoor Recreation. We are just over 2 years old, having been established by Governor Shapiro August 31st, 2023. And for Pennsylvania's Office of Outdoor Recreation, belonging to the entirety of the Commonwealth, we are brought to you by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, a service of DCNR in cooperation with DCED. The Department of Community and Economic Development has worked with us every step of the way from the beginning, and we also often feature special guests from Department of Health, Human Services, Agriculture, Transportation, Pennsylvania Creative Industries, Game Commission, Fish and Boat Commission, etc. In other words, we are a whole of government approach charged with uniting, growing, and strengthening our outdoor economy here in Pennsylvania. What is our outdoor economy, you might ask? Well, our outdoor economy is made up of three components: our outdoor recreation industry, we'll talk more about that, the contribution of outdoor recreation to broad-based community and economic development, and the cost savings associated with green infrastructure and public health improvements along that outdoor recreation can generate. How are we doing, Tara? Okay, good. Now, who is our outdoor recreation industry? Our outdoor recreation industry is made up of the three Ps: producers, providers, and professionals. Producers are designers, manufacturers, distributors, retailers, and repairers of gear, vehicles, clothing, equipment, nutrition for outdoor recreation, the material of outdoor recreation. We have our providers who provide outdoor recreation experiences: guides, outfitters, ski areas, campgrounds, adventure centers, tours and excursions, all of our events, every mountain bike race, an ultra marathon, and bass tournament, and hot air balloon festival, as well as hospitality as it relates to to outdoor recreation, food, beverage, and lodging, serving outdoor recreationists in outdoor recreation settings. So we've got our producers and we've got our providers. We also have professionals who work in outdoor recreation, planners, designers, and builders of infrastructure, creative professionals creating content, making maps, writing guidebooks. We have accountants, attorneys. We have healthcare professionals, consultants, community capacity builders, working inside at computers in service of our outdoor recreation industry. $19 billion this industry created for Pennsylvania in 2023, 168,000 jobs in Pennsylvania. So that's who we are in the office. What are we here to talk about today? Well, we're here to talk about economic impact data for this outdoor recreation industry. We're going to talk just a little bit about why we're interested in economic impact data, cover some types and characteristics of data, go down a list of what we have, not an exhaustive list, but a representative list, and then set a vision, share with you where we, as the Office of Outdoor Recreation, think we ought to go in Pennsylvania in terms of our economic data. So what is economic impact data for? Why do we need it? Why do we want it? Why do we generate it? Well, first and foremost, it's for advocacy and messaging purposes, so that we can describe to communities, to leaders, to funders, the scope and extent of this industry and get the word out about it. This data informs our policy and management about where we make investments and how we deploy resources. Economic impact data can be a key rallying point for planning and partnership. It serves as sort of a basis, a platform on which we can get together to grow our outdoor recreation industry and deliver the benefits of our outdoor economy. And we can use it for monitoring and evaluation, to track trends, to test whether interventions are successful or not. Importantly, embedded across all of these, as we work to elevate our outdoor industry in Pennsylvania, and as we secure ever more its seat at the economic table in the Commonwealth, high quality, widely available, widely understood economic impact data is a critical tool for the outdoor recreation industry participating among the community of industries in Pennsylvania. So if that's why we do it, let's walk through some basics of this data and how it comes together. There's a couple of different types of data, oftentimes that stream into economic impact data. It begins with basic inventories. Inventories are descriptive data. They're counts of numbers of parks, acres of forest, miles of trails, numbers of businesses or numbers of jobs in outdoor recreation. It really tells us what we have out there and is often the beginning place. Inventory data tells us how many of these assets we have. There's visitation data. Visitation data is about places. It's about who goes where, how many people are using a park, how many people use a trail in a day, in a month, in a year. Visitation is place-based data. That's our unit of analysis. While we have a unit of analysis for visitation around places, we have participation data where our unit of analysis is people. Who does what and how often? How frequently do Pennsylvanians hike? How frequently do Pennsylvanians camp? And what types of activities are they engaged in? And then if we take a dollar sign and put the dollar sign on the inventory, put the dollar sign on the visitation, put the dollar sign on the participation, we have now entered the realm of economic impact data. Economic impact data tells us how much money is made by who and in what ways. That data also can incorporate jobs and wages and compensation that are associated with this economic activity. We share this framework because in a lot of these conversations around economic impact data, participation, visitation, inventory often enters the conversation. Okay, what's next? So if those are types of data, let's talk about types of economic analysis. There are two that we'll highlight. One is an economy-centered analysis. And here you can where we got a whole economy, like a whole loaf of bread, and we slice that whole economy, Pennsylvania, 100% of our economy, I don't know, $800 billion or so. What slice of that economy is attributable to outdoor recreation? There is another style of economic analysis, which is industry-centric analysis, where the unit of analysis is not the economy as a whole, but a particular industry. In our case, it would be the outdoor recreation industry. And then the motion is this, where we chase out how far the ripples of that industry go. What are all of the extended effects of this? To give you an illustration, particularly of this extended effect type of analysis, this industry-centric analysis, we can think about an RV. An RV is made and sold. The primary economic productivity of that manufacturer's sale of that RV is the direct contribution of outdoor recreation to our gross domestic product, to our economy. And that is what that $19 billion that you hear frequently represents. 2% direct contribution to our gross domestic productivity in Pennsylvania. But we know that's not the complete story. We know that to make that RV, somebody's got to make wheels and tires. Somebody's got to make frames and appliances and soft goods. Somebody's got to make the tools that the factory workers use. All of those supply chain effects are our indirect economic effects that feed into the direct productivity. And likewise, like there are precursor supply chain indirect effects, the workers at the RV factory, the company itself make wages and profits, and they spend that money. They spend that money to buy, the workers spend that money to rent or buy a house, to buy a cup of coffee. The business spends that money on capital investments. If it's a public company, paying dividends to shareholders. And all of those are the induced effects of our outdoor recreation economy, the economic productivity generated by profits and wages. And this indirect, direct, induced framework often comes to us through an in-plan analysis. An in-plan analysis is a brand name of analysis that we see out in the world quite a bit. And just like there are supply chain and wage and profit effects accompanying the primary productivity of manufacturing and retail, like with this RV, we see the same phenomenon with experiences for ski areas, for campgrounds, for guided experiences or events. And we see the same phenomenon with indirect and induced benefits in addition to our direct with professional services. So this framing of an economic impact applies equally across our producers, our providers, and our professionals. I'll note that we in Pennsylvania right now only have state-level economic impact data at that direct central slice. We're interested in broadening that perspective. There's more story to tell here. Okay, so everything we've been talking about so far has been focused on market transactions. Actual either industrial transactions, B2B kind of stuff, manufacturer to retail, raw material supplier to manufacturer, or a consumer, B2C type of quantification, like a consumer spending type of variable. In addition to these market transaction-based framings, there are non-market, or what we like to call in the office, beyond market values or economic impacts from outdoor recreation. Those beyond market impacts include savings from better health when we participate in outdoor recreation, from the green infrastructure savings over gray infrastructure when we develop outdoor recreation infrastructure. There's also a whole category of economic value beyond market value called consumer surplus, which is the value of the personal meaning that outdoor recreation has in our lives. Sometimes this is framed in a willingness to pay. How much more would you pay for your house, if it had direct access to a trail? How much more would you pay if you were able to access a piece of private land? But there are different ways to measure the value that outdoor recreation brings to our lives, not through a market transaction. Okay, so we've gone over data types. We've gone over the two big buckets of outdoor economy or industry analysis, economy centric or industry centric. We just want to highlight that when we're conducting these analyses, we can extract different information or ask different types of data from these analyses. We can ask descriptive questions: what is happening? We can ask those descriptive questions over a time series or even over a geographic gradient and get trends and track trends over time. We can ask evaluative questions, which takes the what is happening and compares it to a set of benchmarks and allows us to ask the question, is what is happening good or bad? Is a goal accomplished or is a goal not accomplished? We can look at relationships. How do A and B interact with each other? And we can ask predictive questions. If then, if we do this thing, what do we think will happen in the future? If a trend persists, where do we think something will go? What we're doing here is setting the table and building out all of the different avenues along which we can approach this what is the economic impact of Pennsylvania's outdoor recreation industry question. Okay, now, a lot of what I've talked to you about thus far invokes spreadsheets, invokes databases and statistical analysis. And that is where a lot of this action is at. But in addition to those XY cells and the numbers within them, the statistical analysis, we cannot forget that there is more data out there than quantitative data. There are case studies, there are stories to be told, and there is an increasing interest in geographically based or location-based services data. So while we're focusing on some of the big, more quantitative, sort of neutral, technocratic data sets, it is important that we remember that those data sets are most effective when paired with story, when paired with example, when paired with a real business or a real place, and understanding how those numbers touch down in the lives of Pennsylvanians. So that's something that we want to be sure to carry forward in this conversation. As the quant walks conduct their work. Okay, so that was overview. Now let's go down the list of what we have in terms of this kind of data for Pennsylvania. There's a couple of buckets here. There's a lot of different ways we can categorize this data. This is one of them. And as I mentioned before, this is merely a representative list, not an exhaustive list of this data. Industry economic impact data. This is data that quantifies the size of an industry or a part of our industry here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The top level data that we have right now comes from the Outdoor Recreation Satellite Account produced by the Bureau of Economic Analysis within the Federal Department of Commerce. This is where we get our $19 billion, our 2% of gross domestic productivity, 168,000 jobs. This is data put out by the federal government every year. Our 2024 data was to have been released in the fall. However, with the federal government shutdown, the release has been rescheduled, and we found out just at the end of last week that March 5th is the new scheduled release date for 2024 data. So mark your calendars. There will be exciting news coming Pennsylvania's way in the first half of March as this new federal data comes out. In addition to the outdoor recreation satellite account data, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service conducts the National Survey of Fishing, Hunting, and Wildlife Associated Recreation, which gives us information about the hunting, fishing, and wildlife associated recreation industry, both nationally and in Pennsylvania. Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership every couple of years. I believe the last round came out in 2021, maybe 2022. Teddy Roosevelt Conservation Partnership puts out a set of economic impact data that uses even a third type of methodology that we did not discuss thus far that really maximizes the apparent impact of Pennsylvania's outdoor recreation industry. Pennsylvania Downtown Center did a great synthesis of other studies back in 2019, 2020. That is a great piece. And allied industries in Pennsylvania put out data that is relevant to our outdoor recreation industry. Visit PA, the Pennsylvania Tourism Office, puts out tourism statistics that have outdoor recreation information in them. Pennsylvania Creative Industries, powered by Pennsylvania Council on the Arts, has economic impact data that connects mostly in that professionals category of our industry. That is very noteworthy. An additional note for creative industries, they also recently completed a workforce study that really looks into the labor side of their industry that is connected to jobs in our outdoor recreation industry. Okay. So if we have sort of outdoor rec industry data, there's also data that zooms in and focuses on specific activities. These activities are often, this data is often provided by trade associations. We have up here the RVIA, the RV Industry Association, giving us economic impact data, expansive economic impact data, on the RV industry here in Pennsylvania. American Sport Fishing Association is also very regular and good about putting out data about fishing and boating. Our very own Pennsylvania Outdoor Recreation Association and their affiliation with Pennsylvania ski areas has data available on the economic impact of snow sports in Pennsylvania. And we also see user groups being interested in quantifying the impact of their own recreation activities here. I know our climbers in Pennsylvania are very interested in quantifying the economic impact of climbing. So if those are our activity-based economic impact data, there's also place-based economic impact data. Every couple of years, National Park Service refreshes their visitor spending effects models for all of our National Park Service managed sites in Pennsylvania: Delaware Water Gap, Gettysburg National Military Park, Valley Forge, Cradle of Liberty, the forts, Fort Necessity, Allegheny Portage, and others. Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service also do a very good job of quantifying the economic impact of their federal lands here. Pennsylvania State Parks is currently in process with an economic impact study for our state parks. We have the existing data is from about a decade ago. That data generated a talking point that every dollar invested in a Pennsylvania state parks generates $12 worth of economic productivity in the region around a park. These types of place-based data can be very powerful for illustrating the impact of investment in particular assets. And many of our trails, our recreation facilities, and even our events, our races and festivals are collecting and generating economic impact data for their particular activity. And something of interest that we'll talk about a little bit later is trying to figure out, can we take these parts and pieces and sum them to a whole. That would be a very good opportunity if possible. And then, as we discussed earlier, while there is these market transactions, what is the economic productivity of the actual exchange of dollars through outdoor recreation? There are many beyond market types of analyses that are out there. And here, the prime example in Pennsylvania is the series of county level return on environment studies, many of which have been done through the Kittatinny Ridge Conservation Landscape. These county level studies look at all of the environmental investments and assets within counties, waterways, open space, conserved farmland, trails, parks, etc., and use that return on investment framework. If we've invested in this, what are we getting out of it? And reframe that into a return on environment framework that quantifies the beyond market economic impacts of our outdoor recreation in Pennsylvania. Okay, so whirlwind tour of available data in Pennsylvania. Many of you may appreciate that there is a large and strong association of state offices of outdoor recreation that collaborate quite closely through the confluence of states. And through that, we're able to have sort of an under the hood look at what some other states are doing with their economic impact data. And lots of states are doing lots of really good things. Again, this is a selective or representative list, not a comprehensive list of everybody who's doing good. But Washington, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and Arkansas are a couple states that we want to highlight here. So let's take a look at Wisconsin or Washington first. Washington in 2025 completed its third economic impact study of its outdoor recreation, operating on a once every 5-year schedule. So they have 15 years, 3 data points with results at the county level. Editorially speaking, this is the sort of the most sustained and intentional ongoing state level monitoring program of an outdoor recreation industry that we know of, and Washington State deserves great kudos for their sustained commitment to generating value through their data. Wisconsin took a bit of a different approach. Rather than conducting one economic impact study to rule them all at the state level, Wisconsin invested in resources for communities, in a do-it-yourself guide for communities and events and localities to empower them to quantify the economic impact of their outdoor recreation individually. This is a 1,000 points of light approach. This is a grassroots approach. This is Wisconsin's Office of Outdoor Recreation empowering its communities to learn to fish for themselves, so to speak. And as a recovering academic and a technophile, Wisconsin deserves a great deal of congratulations for packing a ton of technical detail into a very clear and usable package through this effort. A tall order in any topic. Okay, that's Wisconsin. Michigan, next door. Michigan has taken a more of a dashboard-oriented approach to their economic impact data. If you visit Michigan Office of Outdoor Recreation Industries website, you'll see their economic data and participation data featured prominently in filterable, chart and table downloadable dashboards that present a wealth of information. Michigan also, in addition to focusing on economic impact and participation, has one of the leading efforts at the state level to incorporate some of these beyond market values like consumer surplus and healthcare savings into their models. And they've got a fair amount of information in their participation section about the demographics. Who are outdoor recreationists and what impact does that have on our activities? So we got Washington, long-term, sustained monitoring. We got Wisconsin, grassroots, 1,000 points of light. We got Michigan, establishing dashboards and pushing into some of these beyond market values. Arkansas back last summer in 2025 released a very, I hope nobody takes this in a bad way, a very policy-oriented economic impact study of their outdoor recreation industry. It's established, it was conducted with a goal of both monitoring the effects of their office and their efforts to grow their outdoor economy, so that kind of, if we do A, do we see response B type of analysis? And this study is tuned for opportunity spotting. If we want to grow our outdoor recreation industry, where are the places, where are the industry subsectors that we see kind of that intersection of speed and impact to help the state focus its investments and its efforts. And in all of this, Arkansas's Office of Outdoor Recreation established, I think, first of their kind, very innovative, and I think potentially very high impact data-based relationships within the state, so that state agencies that are collecting information relevant to the outdoor recreation industry. Here in Pennsylvania, that would be the equivalent of our labor and industry and our Department of State, Department of Community and Economic Development, DCNR, and our participation, and weaving those data streams together in an API-like fashion to enable updates and kind of integrated policy within the state. They found a new pathway there that I think is going to benefit us all. And the last one that we want to highlight here is Nevada's. Nevada's is the most recent, came out late in the fall, so it's the freshest of all of these state level studies, and it is quite comprehensive in and of itself. So it packages in one study many of these elements that we've discussed thus far. Okay, so lots of great background on what's happened in Pennsylvania, on what's happened in other states, a little data 101 with respect to our outdoor recreation industry. You may be interested in what do we see next here in Pennsylvania. I know I am. The first priority that we have in Pennsylvania is to establish, to get and disseminate county level total output data for our outdoor recreation industry. So think about our $19 billion, our 168,000 jobs. Expand that to include the indirect supply chain effects and the induced effects of wages and profits, and then slice that down across all 68, sorry team, across all 67 counties in Pennsylvania. County level, thank you, Tasha. County level total economic data, including jobs and compensation. Like, I can't help but think, if I were working at a local level rather than a state level, I'd ask the question, love that $19 billion, but what's that mean for me and my place and my people? And that's quite that we want to be able to equip you all to answer that question. Okay, and in doing so, we want this data to align with other benchmarking data. There's all kinds of information out there about all kinds of allied industries and trails and parks, and we want to make sure that all of these data points align and triangulate, not equal each other, but all point in the same direction with same general orders of magnitude. We want to leverage existing data both for relevance. If we can develop data-based relationships among government agencies and with industry, we will be able to formulate more relevant and more effective both policy and advocacy. And we want to be able to slice this data not just by county, but across industry subsectors. And industry subsectors, we're talking about categorizations like the two-digit NAICS levels of manufacturing, retail, transportation, professional services, healthcare and social services, et cetera. And we want to slice this by as many different activities as possible. So we can talk about cycling, we can talk about motorized recreation, we can talk about hunting, we can talk about boating, etc. So this is our next biggie coming up for the office. We're marshaling as many resources as we can. We are working our way through the processes that we need to work through in government to bring this forward. And we hope to have some exciting news for you just as soon as we can have that exciting news to share. While we're working on this very one concrete project, we also see some kind of bigger picture opportunities in Pennsylvania that we can all work on together. And these are not like check the box, accomplish the goal, and move on kinds of activities. These are continuous improvement, mode of working kinds of opportunities that we see to build momentum to really shred our economic data into the future. So one is by developing coordinating communities of practice. There are lots and lots of organizations and individuals out there in the Commonwealth, all of whom, like in the Wisconsin example, are taking 1,000 points of light approach to drive this forward. We got lots of counties looking at location-based services data and how can that be used to quantify the impact of outdoor recreation. We got lots of parks, we got lots of trails, we got lots of events that are trying to figure out how to generate data for their own place. Let's get together. Let's share our notes. Let's come up with maybe some models that we can try together. Let's build communities of practice and coordinate around economic data for outdoor recreation. And in doing so, I think we're going to identify some pilots or some kind of good practices that we can implement. I think about our gravel cycling community. Our gravel cycling community has done a great job organizing over the past couple of years. Can we, in another year, pull that community together to collect economic impact data for all of our major gravel events in Pennsylvania? And if we do so, are we going to be able to tell a cohesive story? I think our guides and our outfitters in the Commonwealth are well poised to pull together and pilot some data about that sector of our industry specifically. And while that is a grassroots, ground up approach, I think those of us who work in government at the state and the federal level, I think we can find ways to develop data-based relationships, to leverage the resources that we have to inform each other's work and to develop integrated and coordinated policy together. And I think industry has a real role to participate here as well. When it comes to consumer spending, when it comes to market trends, there is no substitute for that third-party market research data that only industry has access to right now. And as we said before, while we're working on some of these more quant-based data efforts, we need to continue to identify our champions, pull our stories out and put them forward so that we can illustrate what these numbers mean in our communities and to our people. You're going to see efforts over the next year, 2 years, 3 years to build momentum in these ways. You're going to see them in the work of the Office of Outdoor Recreation. You're going to see them in SCORP as the Commonwealth implements its new statewide comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. You're going to see it in regional and local plans, like the outdoor economy strategies that was developed at in the Southern Alleghenies, up in Northwest Pennsylvania, Lancaster, York counties, and others. And I think you're going to start at our convenings, at our Trails and Greenways conferences, at our downtown center conferences, at our economic development conferences, our land conservancy conferences. You're going to see these data conversations being put forward in service of that coordinating community of practice effort. So that's what we got coming up. A vision for economic impact data related to outdoor recreation here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and I know around every campfire I've ever sat at, there's always been room for one more to join us. And there is plenty of room around this economic data campfire, and we invite you to join us. Maybe we'll even sing a song at some point. So thank you for allowing me to share these thoughts with you. I think we have a few minutes for questions. Tara, you got any guidance for me on that, or should I jump in on chat? You're on mute, dear colleague.
I will start throwing some at you.
Okay.
So how are we obtaining inventory data? Is it location-based off phones?
Yep. Inventory data is something that the Office of Outdoor Recreation is not right now establishing an inventory of outdoor assets in Pennsylvania. The first step is answering the question, why do we want this inventory and what are we going to do with it? That's going to guide what you include in that inventory. And then I think there's a kind of a multiple part approach. One is getting with your local experts, getting with your people who know what these assets are, and have them help build the list. The next is get out the maps, get out the recreation maps, get out the third-party apps, and comb across those for all of the assets that you're looking for. When it comes to inventories of things like outdoor recreation businesses, this is a very challenging one. To be honest with you, it is a struggle for us in the Office of Outdoor Recreation to identify all of our outdoor businesses in Pennsylvania, and it's one that every state office struggles with. So if any of you out there have some good solutions on that account, not the physical place-based assets, but the outdoor businesses, we'd love to develop a coordinating community of practice around that.
Okay, next one. Is there any plan to update data around the economic impact of water trails and waterways across the state?
That I think could be very ripe for that pilots and pushes sort of momentum building idea. The county level economic impact study that we so desire will, I'm knocking on a piece of wood now, have information on boating, on fishing, and other water and water trail related activities. I think it is going to be incumbent upon water trail managers and the community of water trails to marshal specific data for themselves, and the office stands ready again through this coordinating community of practice and pilots and pushes framework to support that, and through the county level study kind of get the ball rolling and provide some raw material that can hopefully drive that forward. I think our rivers are an absolutely critical and probably portion of our outdoor infrastructure that we have not paid as much attention to as we could. So really appreciate that interest.
So how will we be getting county level data?
You see, there are consultants. The current game plan is for the Office of Outdoor Recreation to contract for that through an open bidded process. And we look forward to that. And we hope that that will become a periodic effort that we undertake every 3 to 5 years, maybe. And with that data in place, you can rest assured that we in the office are going to hustle it in as many different ways and in as many different places around the Commonwealth as possible as soon as it is available. So it is not something that will be kept close to the vest. It is something that will be proclaimed from the hilltops.
And when do we expect this data to be available?
We hope that by this time next year, or thereabouts, we have this resource available to us. It is something about which we are feeling a growing sense of urgency. It's a service that we really want to deliver to Pennsylvania, and it is at the top of our project priority list right now.
And then the final question is, how can we be a better liaison in our regions?
Oh, wow. Well, great question. By participating here today, that's a good step. One of our goals with this webinar is to help equip us across the Commonwealth with some common terminology, some common concepts that we can all go out and share. So by spending time, working with some of these thoughts and then sharing them with your partners, sharing them with your leaders, you can be a liaison for this. Reach out to the office anytime. I hope that we have successfully developed a reputation of being willing to come to you and spend time with you anytime we can. And we want to continue doing that. And as both our work in the office moves forward and the work of the Outdoor Business Alliance of Pennsylvania, which has a strong play to make connected to the industry, that you continue to engage. And as the study moves forward, as the results are available, we'll be sharing ideas with how you can then best share that information forward. We good?
Mm-hmm.
I hope you enjoyed your lunch today. I hope that these ideas are interesting and stimulating to you. We do have a recording of this, and we will be putting it out. We'll be putting it out. How will we be putting it out, Tara?
Participants will get an email of the recording, and we'll also be posting it on DCNR's YouTube.
And probably on my LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good work, everybody. Thanks for your interest and thanks for your questions. We'll see you soon.